Go to the Facebook page.
All right, we're good to go.
Sweet. I don't see it yet.
We're live.
Oh, there we are.
Mhm.
All right, I'm just gonna share this real quick. All right. Can everybody hear me? Testing, testing. One, two, three. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Danette, and I am the creator of Young Black Nexus, and I'm also a licensed professional counselor. And we are here today to share redefining the strong Black woman. We have some dynamic speakers and panelists today. Like, if I went off their resumes, like, y'all would be blown away. There's educators, doctors, mental health professionals, higher ed professionals, health professionals, business women, and so much more. We're going to introduce them in a little bit, and the blurbs they're going to give will not do what they do justice at all. But we're going to get into it shortly. And then our friend, after we do our introduction, Ricky with the beautiful long fro over there, she's going to share with you all a poem that she wrote. It's amazing. If you haven't gotten a chance to hear her, or see her live doing one of her poetry readings, you're missing out. You need to follow her on Facebook, follow her on Instagram. Y'all can get into her poetry readings, okay? All right. And then for everyone that's tuning in, you'll be able to ask questions towards the end. We may not be able to get to them, but we're going to do our best to get to them as well. So you can leave a comment in the live feed, or you can send us a message and we'll try to do what we can to answer your questions. And yeah, so to get us started, we're just going to go through from how I see you all on my screen. So, Ashley B. Wilson, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I am Ashley B. Wilson. I have a master's degree in biology. Also, I have a master's degree in higher education, and currently I am a higher education practitioner. I work at University of Michigan, and like my goal and purpose in life is to create radical change to the education systems in the U.S. So that's my niche and what I do, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. All right, Miss Kai Bright.
Hi, my name is Kai Bright. Currently, I attend the University of Michigan working on my master's in secondary education. I take my certification test in 2 weeks to become a licensed English teacher for middle school, high school. I'm currently working at an alternative school here in Flint. And in my free time, I'm a freelance bartender. I write, I make soap, I paint. So that's me.
Follow Sips by Kai, right?
Yes, follow Sips by Kai on Instagram and Facebook.
All right. Miss Winter J. Pitts. Yes, flip it.
Hey, everybody, I am Winter. I am an educator. I actually teach first grade ELA at a school in Cleveland, on the west side of Cleveland. It is a language immersion school called Gala. I am also pursuing my master's in educational leadership, and also applying to be a principal one day too. So keep me in your prayers. Um, I really love teaching, and I really love just supporting communities, because I've just seen the difference it has made in my life and the lives of those around me. And so a big part of the reason of what I do, the reason why I do what I do, is because I just want to be able to just share what was given to me. So yeah, I'm excited to be on this panel today.
Awesome. Black educators matter. All right. Shanae, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Shanae Kilpatrick, no relation to Kwame. I know I get that all the time, so I like to just get that out there. Um, So my background is in public health. My undergrad is in health policy studies with a concentration in health education, health behavior. I also have my master's in public health. So I'm in the public health world. Currently work as a mobile lab operations coordinator. So I am in the field helping collect samples to kind of get some baselines of different chemical exposures that we may have had in Michigan. Public health is just my life. I eat, sleep, drink it. Health equity is my love language. So, just out here trying to make a difference for my community. More things coming down the pipeline, but can't talk about that just yet.
Amen. Adrienne, can you introduce yourself?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adrienne Muntz. My formal training is social work. I have a bachelor's in social work and criminal justice, and I have a master's from the University of Michigan in social work. I'm excited to be on this panel. I want to show you guys a project that I recently did. I launched a book. Just like so excited to share this with you guys, but I launched a book for children because honestly, I just feel like the kids were ill-equipped to be able to cope with what was going on with the COVID pandemic. And coping is just difficult in general. But just imagine, this has been the biggest experience like this since the Spanish flu. And how were they prepared at all to handle it, right? Mm-hmm. So I created a book called COVID Just Breathe. It's available on Amazon. And it's also available on my Hidden Treasure store website. I also own a retail wellness store. So here's my little... Trying to have something fancy for you guys, so one of those little things. I'm also a holistic curriculum, I guess you say educator, so to speak, in the making, but I'm on a curriculum team and I'm really excited about it. I'm also in the process of studying herbology, so I'll be getting one of my certifications on Tuesday, you guys, so whoop, whoop. Mm-hmm. And that's all I want to share right now, but I'm a psychiatric social worker and I'm working at a behavioral health hospital.
Awesome. And you're also a doula, right?
I am a birthing doula and postpartum doula. So actually I have another book that I'm working on, but kind of like someone else said, hush, hush, it's not quite out yet, but I'm working on that. So it's something I wanted to be able to share with kids because once again, like how do you prepare to the adjustment of having a younger sibling around? Mom's breastfeeding, she's nursing, like, hey mom, how can I help? They want to do the right thing and let's give them some tools to be able to do it and feel comfortable. Thanks.
Awesome. So excited to have you. I told y'all that their resumes are impeccable. So you're just going to hear a little blurb of what they do. But again, it does not do what they do justice at all. So next is Ricky. Can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Ricky Swinton and I got a master's in higher education administration from Central Michigan University. So just like Ashley, I'm also higher education practitioner. I'm at Kalamazoo College right now working in the ARCIS Center for Social Justice Leadership. So my passion, very similar to Ashley's, is just to bring about radical change in the higher education system. And when I'm not doing my job, I am dabbling in writing poetry, and all of my poetry is to showcase the experience of Black people in America and also Black women in America specifically. So that's what I try to do with my poetry.
Yes, I love it. We're going to hear from Ricky shortly before we get into our panel discussion, and I'm so excited. All right, my Chrissy, well, I should say Dr. Jackson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chrissy Jackson. I am currently a Michigan, I'm currently a Michigan State University fourth year who just was accepted into a residency program in New York. I am going to be a pediatrician, and that is truly where my love lies. I love working with children, especially encouraging families and children that are underserved. That is where I came from, and that is my passion, because I know that when you have good people working in that area, you can really change the world and you can really change the health of a community. That's about it, but more to come, hopefully.
I'm so excited. Congratulations again, Chrissy. All right. Oh, it moved around, but Dominique, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominique Zander. I am a mental health professional. I have my master's degree in social work. Currently, I do therapy. I focus on trauma, so all trauma work, child maltreatment, domestic violence, witnessing violent crimes. I really believe that in order to heal, that you need to rediscover yourself, and the people around you is important in that aspect as well. I serve on the board for Growing Hope Foundation. They are a organization that helps our youth travel. So they are kicking off and trying to, of course, COVID happened, so they weren't able to do much traveling this year. To even get off the ground with visiting underserved populations. But stay on the lookout for that. And I'm also excited to be here today.
We're so excited to have you, my fellow Cast Tech technician. All right. And now Miss Micah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Micah Dixon. I am a mother to one son. He was just here.
Hey.
I'll have to bring him back on camera. But yes, I'm a mother of one son, Abraham. I was a former preschool teacher before I had my son. Now I am a stay-at-home mom and a full-time entrepreneur. I have a small business. It's called Shea Body Beauty. I sell shea butter creams and oils and grooming products for men. And I am also excited to be here too.
Awesome. Y'all better get into her products. Listen, y'all see her skin? I have some of her butter still, and listen, my skin be glistening when I put it on. Out here shining, and it ain't even summertime. All right. And last but not least, Dr. Sierra Walker.
Hey, everybody. Not a doctor yet, but I appreciate it. It did kind of feel good. Speaking into existence, I'm here for it. My name is Sierra Walker. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, but I currently live in St. Louis now. A little bit about my background. I went to Howard University for undergrad. I got a master's from Emory University in public health, and I'm currently pursuing my doctoral in public health leadership at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Like Shanae, my passion is public health, so I call myself a community solutionist. I'm all about community power building, social determinants of health, health equity, and what that means for our communities to have economic mobility. So all of my work is really stemmed around how do we take community members and put them in a better place of wellness. During the pandemic, I manage a team of community health workers who were deemed essential during this pandemic. So it has been really interesting just to see our infrastructure in a different way. And I also serve as an interim managing director for a community-led nonprofit. So that's another rewarding experience that I often get to lean back on. So pleasure to be here, super excited and ready for the conversation.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you. All right. Now my Ricky is going to bless us with a poetry reading, and then we'll jump right into our panel discussion. Go for it, Ricky.
Okay. Can y'all hear me good? Okay.
Yes.
So this poem is called Mad is an Understatement. I wrote this like right at the height of the uprising when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered with others by police. And I wrote it because it was just all these feelings that were inside of me, and I didn't know how to articulate it with just saying it, and it was hard to explain. And this thing of like angry Black woman, mad Black woman kept popping in my head. And at the time, I was just like, I don't want to like subscribe to that stereotype, but it was true. I was really mad, and I felt like Black women were really mad. So what does it mean for that to be true for us? And how can we articulate our emotions and not have to feel bad about them, to embrace them and to let the world know like, this is how we're feeling. It's okay that we're feeling this way because we live in an environment that allows us to feel this way. And so what can we do to change it? So I basically wrote like this poem to everyone who isn't a Black woman. So there's like messages for white men, white women, Black men, just explaining all the different emotions that Black women go through and why we feel them. So again, it's called Mad is an Understatement. Okay. Mad is an understatement. It is not expansive enough to capture my state of being. It is too limited to hold the gravity of my experiences, and it is so simple compared to the complexity of what I'm actually feeling that it is insulting. I'm so much more than a mad Black woman. I'm a confused Black woman. White man, I am confused at how you can follow your ancestry back to a country in Europe, but not see your tie to immigration. How you can tell my people to go back to Africa as if you're not the reason we're here in the first place, white woman. I am confused at how you think, still in my fashion, my music, my hair, and my curves, while claiming them as your own is a celebration of my culture, Black man. I am confused at how you can call me a queen and place the crown on my head, but give the throne away to another non-Black woman. Tell me, what's a crown without a throne? And what's a queen detached from a kingdom? I'm a tired Black woman. White man, I am tired of debating about the value of my melanin and how it has been historically devalued. White woman, I am tired of prying your hand from the top of my head while politely explaining how petting me is microaggressive. Black man, I am tired of intellectually arguing my worth while giving evidence of why I should be loved without prerequisites. I'm a sad Black woman. White man, I am saddened that my Blackness is not beautiful to you unless the deepness of my skin color is diluted by the absence of yours. White woman, I am saddened because we should be sisters in this fight against sexism, but you don't treat me like a sister. I'm more like a temporary foster care sibling that you express temporary sympathy towards. Black man, I am saddened because you have 20/20 vision when it comes to seeing white privilege, but is the spitting image of Ray Charles when expected to see male privilege. I'm a disgusted Black woman. White man, I am disgusted at how you can protest and rally at the state's Capitol building while holding assault rifles and not be threatened. But as soon as my people peacefully march, we're surrounded and attacked by police as if we have bombs strapped to our chests. White woman, I am disgusted at how to you, dating a Black boy is just an initiation ceremony or a way to rebel against your daddy. And your light-skinned babies are being paraded about like life-size baby dolls. Black man, I am disgusted at how you demonize the Black woman for speaking her mind while praising the white woman for her silence and the bottling up of her non-compliant emotions. Like, bruh, have you not seen Snapped? I'm a frustrated Black woman. White man, I am frustrated at how your emotion humanizes you, but my emotion hardens me. How your assertiveness can solidify your position as a leader, but my assertiveness calls me a bitch. White woman, I am frustrated at how you get immense gratification from helping the less fortunate, swooping in to try and save us as if you have the answers. Well, we have the answers and we know how to end our own plight, but none of you so-called saviors with resources ever thought to access. Black men, I am frustrated at how you resent me for not falling with you. The act of stepping up financially and holding down the household while the man was keeping you down is not a supportive gesture, but an act of betrayal in your eyes. I'm an impatient Black woman. White man, I am impatient to how you think not seeing color when color covers the entirety of my body is progressive. White woman, I'm impatient to how your guilt triggers your fragility, which then activates a flood of tears meant to wash away your offenses. But as a result of those warring waters, the targeted are forgotten and their wounds left unattended to. Black men, I am impatient to how your infatuation with me is only skin deep. You care more about the roundness of my ass than the inner workings of my mind. Like, why must it be you who objectifies me? I'm a worried Black woman. White man, I am worried that you will vote a bigot into office again and continue to criminalize the faces that are darker than yours. White woman, I am worried that you will vote that same bigot into office who is also a sexist due to the fear of losing the false support of the white man, Black man. I am worried that we will never reach a resolve. Like, can our love endure this separation? Convoluted governmental schemes may be responsible for breaking us up, but we're responsible for never getting back together. I'm an exhausted Black woman. White man, I am exhausted from using analogies, examples, metaphors, history, literature, all to try and explain how all lives matter is a lie or an inaccurate statement until Black lives can matter just as much as white lives. White woman, I'm exhausted from watching you play the victim when being confronted about your actions. Like, how can ignorance be your friend but make me a nigga? White woman, you can't be both the perpetrator and the victim. Black man, I'm exhausted from carrying you on my shoulders while also trying to pull myself up off the ground. And I thought you were supposed to carry me. I'm a fearful Black woman. White man, I am fearful at how you can so easily aim your steel and fire at the backs of my unarmed children. White woman, I am fearful that to you, allyship is just a buzzword or a way to solidify yourself as one of the good white people, and your actual efforts are being spent more on fighting for animal rights than on fighting for mine. Black man, I am fearful that once we reach racial healing, you will abandon me in the fight for the rest of my rights and become the new face of my oppressor. The amplified crackles in her voice is the sound of centuries upon centuries of oppression. The shortness of her temper is a PTSD symptom of stagnant progression while being locked in hostile environments. And her resting bitch face is the reflection of America's sin staring back at you. So you see, mad is an understatement. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ricky. I told y'all, if y'all have not followed her on Instagram or Facebook, you're missing out. She has so many poems on there, and she's working on some more. So stay tuned for more from Miss Ricky Swinton. All right. So now we're just going to jump right into our panel discussion. Like we talked about, I want this to be conversational. So if you hear something you like, you agree with it, snap, clap, pop, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Um, I don't want to have to call on anybody, but like I said before, I might depending on the question, I might call on some people because I know it's their background. So jumping right in, let's start out with let's define what it means to be a strong Black woman. Okay, so who would like to go first? You can just jump right in.
I can jump in. For me, thinking about what it means to be a strong Black woman, it definitely means like taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. That's what I think about, like being a strong Black woman. And so, especially like the emotionally and spiritually part, like that's super important because I think like the whole idea of being a strong Black woman is similar to like, oh, you just put up with a whole bunch of stuff. Like you're unbreakable no matter what comes your way. You just take everything and you just, all right, cool. I'm just gonna throw that in the backpack and I'm just gonna carry it all. And so for me, it's like, nah, being a strong Black woman ain't throwing everything in a backpack. It's, setting those boundaries and also taking care of yourself. Like, hey, I can't take on that problem. Like, oh, my friend or my family, they had an issue, but I can't take that on, right? So really like knowing your limits and not pushing yourself to the edge, because I think when you think about like, oh yeah, putting all that stuff in the backpack, that stuff weighs on you when you're carrying it. And like Ariel Badu said, bag lady, you gonna miss your bus, you gonna miss your blessing from carrying all that stuff. So that's how I think about it. Like you're gonna miss what's for you by carrying all this stuff because it's slowing you down and holding you back. And I'm sure our mental health professionals on here can relate. Like if you carry all this stuff, like you can't have the clarity and the space and the joy and all the things that you want in your life. So for me, like being a strong Black woman is definitely having that, like taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and like not necessarily taking everything going that comes your way.
Awesome. I love that you said that. Like self-care is important and boundaries are so important.
I think on the flip side of that is like not only knowing like where your boundaries are and what you can handle and where you're able to help, but also like being able to ask for help. I think society has told us being a strong person or a strong Black woman means that, you know, we have to be able to take care of ourselves and do everything ourselves, and we don't need anybody. But as I've grown and figured out what that means for me, like sometimes I do need help. Sometimes I do need someone else to come in and help me with something. So being able to be vulnerable with others and to like be strong enough to ask for help, because that's something that's really hard to do nowadays. People really have a hard time letting people know that they don't have it all together at the moment. So I think that is a trait that I want to lift up, that like strong Black women that I know how to be vulnerable, and they don't feel guilty about it, and they don't demonize other people when they need help either.
I agree. So the other thing I think that hasn't been mentioned yet is being a Black woman is being savvy navigators, knowing the obstacles that are going to be put in your place and knowing how to pivot and work around it, potentially work outside of the system to get the intended result, knowing how to network, right? Network via word, whatever it is you need, you need some food, like, oh, let me call such and such, she might have some extra stuff that could help me out. She might have that little card that could help me out this month. Or, let me call such and such up the street. She can watch my kids and I can do her hair for my childcare. Just being able to navigate all of those obstacles, and also having this double consciousness, right? Because yes, we are women, so we face, sexism, right? But then we Black, so we also have to be conscious of racism, and sometimes I feel like there is a bit of a battle to remember. It's like, you're a woman, but sometimes you kind of forget. You be so hyped, like we blackity black, and you're like, oh wait, I'm a woman, so this is a whole other thing. This might not even be a Black thing. This might be a woman thing. So just knowing how to navigate those roles and being like, okay, I see what you're doing. I see the setup. I'm gonna go around this way and still get to where I'm trying to go.
So I also have some thoughts, like the very nature of talking about being a Black woman, like the social implications of it, right? You don't hear any other culture say that. You know what I mean? It's very exclusive to being Black, right? It's a double-edged sword. You get dogged if you are considered a strong Black woman, right? And you get disrespected and degraded if you aren't. Like, it's exceptionally problematic. Like, I'm trying not to get overly passionate about this part because we have so much stuff to jump into, right? But like, just socially speaking, right? Only in our community and like our culture do men describe their women as strong and hard, and you know what I mean? Like when you listen to other cultures, they describe their women like flowers. They're delicate. They describe us like automotive material. Like, you know what I mean? They describe us like cars. We're hard, we're sturdy, we're built to last. Like, what? Like, let me be delicate. Let me be soft. Allow me the opportunities in life to have those quote unquote feminine moments, those experiences. But we don't get that. Like, so much about society has like deconstructed the family system, the Black family system, everything that they've been doing for centuries. They even talked about how they put the ghettos specifically, the way that they made them to break up our family units, to break up our systems, the way they incarcerate our men in astronomical rates, the way that they incarcerate our youth, the school to prison pipeline, the same things that they're doing to them in the correctional systems, they're doing them in the schooling systems. And I know we have a lot of educators here who probably can speak on some of those aspects, but they do so many things to pull and tug at the family structure of Black people. And all of that weighs on us heavily because that's your child, that's your partner, that's your son, that's your father. We hold that at our core, so as women, we're holding that on our backs. I remember my grandmother used to tell me as a child, like, you pull up your bootstraps. If I looked like I was becoming emotional, you're gonna have to suck that up. You think this is hard, wait till you get older and you got other responsibilities, you got other things to manage, you got other things on your back. You have to be strong because the people around you are gonna need to lean on you for support, and you're gonna have to be able to bear that weight. So as a Black woman, when they're telling us to be strong, it's we have to be not only strong for ourselves, we have to be strong for our support system, because we know that they're going to lean on us. Some go wrong, you want to lean on big mama. You want to call your mama, right? You want to call big sis, right? You want to call your lady, you're leaning on a woman. And as a result, the byproduct is we're worn down. We all struggle with compassion fatigue because, as Danelle was saying, we don't have those boundaries. What are boundaries? What boundaries do we put in place? Our self-care often is looked at us as if we're being selfish. The moments we want to take to ourselves some solitude. Oh no, I need some time for myself. Why? Why can't I have that time from you? Whether it's in our work environment, whether it's in our personal environment. What boundaries? When you're a strong Black woman, you're supposed to be able to bear it all. And when you struggle, people mistreat you. So I struggle with the very concept of being a strong Black woman, because other communities aren't required to have that as a piece of discussion. You don't hear white, oh yeah, I'm a strong white woman. I'm a strong Latino woman. I'm a strong, Asian woman. They don't even have to think about that. Let me just be, right? They don't get to have to think about, do I fit that standard or not? Yeah, we're sitting here trying to have discussions like, what is it, And it looks different to all of us. And it looks even different to the people who are out there on Facebook. Like, we're all thinking of something different because we have yet another thing to add to our plate that we're trying to measure up to at all times. Sorry, a little winded.
You're good. That was so real. Like, we do struggle with that duality of on one hand, it's that badge of honor, and on the other hand, it can be a burden, because if you can't handle it all, then people looking at you with the side eye, like, girl, you better pray that away, or you got to do what you got to do. And it's like, it's okay not to be okay. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I need some help. Like, there's so much strength in vulnerability. And my good friend, Pastor Clifford Clark, reminded me that strength is vulnerability. Like, I love how he flipped that, and like that put things in perspective for me. Like, it's not only there's strength in it, but it is vulnerability. Strength is vulnerability, because we can share who we are, be who we are, and say like, hey, I need some help. Like, I talked to Winter, like, pray for me. Like, just yesterday I called her, like, I'm tired, I need to pray real quick, I need to call on my good friend and like get poured into. And I think that's so important. And I loved how you all mentioned the duality of that and the complexities of having that identity, and how we don't get to be soft, because then we're weak and so many other things. So I appreciate you all for mentioning that. Go ahead, Winter.
Oh my goodness. Can I also add that I had to learn as a Black woman that I am enough. How I show up, how I speak, my presence is enough. And how I express my Blackness as a Black woman is enough. And if my friend to the left, wait, let me make sure I know my directions, don't judge me. If my friend to the right of me, my friend to the left of me express their Blackness in a different way as a Black woman, that's okay. I don't have to be intimidated by that. But if anything, I guess I can uplift that, as well as uplift mine, and say both experiences matter. And it adds to the experience in general as a Black woman. And so for me, like, hearing that, like, all of that resonated with me, and it just made me just remind myself, and hopefully remind those that are listening, that you are enough. However you choose to express being a Black woman is enough. And if it's a season in your life where you feel like I don't want to be strong right now, I'm not okay right now, that is okay. I had to learn that, being honest and transparent. I had to learn that in 2019 and 2020, that I was not okay, and it was okay. And when I was open and honest about that, oh my goodness, the growth, the beauty that came with that, the perspective, the wisdom that came with that was so beautiful. And all of that taught me that how I show up, no matter what season I'm in, no matter how I present myself in that moment, I am enough. And so I wanted to add that too.
I gotta lift up what was just said, because I was too battling with this question. I didn't know how to answer it, because I grew up with one understanding. And then I went to Howard, which like completely shook my understanding. So I watched my mom, who typically I would say is a strong Black woman. But even that definition, I would feel like as a child would put some pressure on her, right? Because she was a single Black woman. So there might be times when she wants to crumble or wants to just be held. But I had this expectation that she was my superhero, right? Which a lot of mothers do. But I didn't realize that until I got to college and I was at Howard, and I'm like, the Black experience is certainly an experience, because this singular understanding of what being Black was that I knew from Detroit was nothing compared to Howard that represents all 50 states. So we had a very, I don't even know how to call it. We had a very intense African American studies class to which we studied the Black woman schema, and we really picked it apart, and we looked at how educators are studying it, how do we kind of personify ourselves. And a group of my friends, we just made the decision that we will always identify as a Black woman. Like, we would not put that adjective in front of it. So I just appreciated what Winter said, because it makes me think about Black woman. To me, if I had to put a definition, it's just being unapologetically me. So whatever that shows up to be, that's a strong Black woman, because I feel like in all facets and definitions, I guess I will embody that. But I'm just comforted about all of the responses, because I too can fall victim to not setting boundaries and, you know, feeling like I have to use this as a reason or an example to be better. And I hope that that makes sense. But all of these definitions have just reminded me, just show up, you know, show up for yourself and be okay with that. So
I love it. One of my favorite sayings right now is Black woman, show up as yourself, like whatever that means to you. And I think this panel and what we've spoken to, like, has shown us that Blackness and being a Black woman is a spectrum, and how we choose to do that and express that is okay. Like, we want to rock our froze and big earrings, let's do it. We want to braid our hair, we want to rock it straight. However we choose to present ourselves, how we carry ourselves. If we can say that we want to take the cape off and I don't want to like help out today, I need a self-care day, that's okay as well. I appreciate you all for saying that. I think that is so important. And then Sierra, I think you set us up for a perfect transition to our next question, which is about the schema of the strong Black woman. Um, and I just wanted to talk about some research by Dr. Cheryl L. Woods Giscombe. She's a professor at the University of North Carolina, and she did some research on the strong Black woman persona or schema, however you want to call it. And it had 5 dimensions. She came up with an obligation to present an image of strength, feeling an obligation to suppress emotions, resistance to being vulnerable, a drive to succeed despite limited resources, and feeling an obligation to help others. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how these dimensions or schemas have played out in your life, whether it be in relationships, if you feel comfortable talking about it, your professional life, your social life, and things of that nature. So whoever wants to jump in, go right in, and we'll continue going forward. Oh, you're on mute, Sierra.
Okay. So my computer, sometimes it want to do the touch screen, sometimes it doesn't. But so in my seminar course at U of M, a book that we're reading is called Teaching to Transgress by Bell Hooks, which if you've ever read anything by Bell Hooks, is probably the best thing you've ever read in your life. And a lot of these dimensions, we're currently reading chapter 4. She kind of speaks about, she kind of intertwines all of them. And for me, as I was reading the chapter, it took me literally 7 days to read it, because every couple paragraphs I was triggered, because she was talking about something that I did not understand, or I did not know how to put it in words at some point in my life, and how it impacted me in relationships with, you know, guys, with friends, you know, my educational experiences. It impacted how I interact with my parents, my siblings. I guess you could even say like socially, how I don't trust to create friends. Like, that's how much I've been impacted by things. As you know, as you elevate as a Black woman further into your education, you're expected to know how to not be vulnerable. You know, you're expected to understand how you feel, figure out how to deal with that emotion, and keep going on. And, you know, like half of you here, we went to college together. That was not easy for any of us. None of us. I mean, maybe a little bit easier for Ricky because her mama was around the corner, but you know, she could run back home. But you know, it was not an easy thing. And one thing I feel like we did, you know, those of us who went to college together, like we were a part of Black Student Alliance together, but I feel like a part that we never trusted each other enough to do was be vulnerable in our emotions. Like we would be vulnerable within our friend group, but I don't think we had a moment as Black Student Alliance, here's the Black community, let's have a day to be vulnerable, to figure out what we're feeling, you know, to figure out, is this something that I just feel myself or my group of friends feel, or is this something we feel across the whole campus? And I feel like that's also reflective in our community, you know, as Black people, like in our cultures and our society. Like I feel like that's just how we are. We don't talk about it. We just, like I said, or like Ashley was saying, you put it in your backpack and you keep going. um, and for me to finally, literally within the last week, have that aha moment, like, thank you, bell hooks. This is what I felt, and putting it into words. You know, especially, you know, like I was working for Flint Community Schools for 3 years, and we don't have resources. I'm not even gonna hide it. Like we do not have resources. Like the pencils my students use came out of my pocket. The highlighters they use came out of my pocket. Decorate my classroom came out of my pocket. And you know, we don't work in the summers. We don't get paid. So that would be my bartending money that I will put into my classroom come September. And we wouldn't have anything. And we still got to figure out how to make it work. We still got to figure out how to make it work. And I feel like that's why I could roll with it, is because as Black people, as a Black woman, we're taught to deal with less and make something out of nothing. Like how many meals can our great grandmothers make from scratch? That's the same concept of making something out of nothing and not crying, not being sad, not, that's my son. As you hear him sucking on his juice box. You know, like my grandmother, she had 12 kids to raise, 12 mouths to feed on top of her husband. In the summer times, her sisters would send their kids up to Flint, so that would easily be 20 miles to feed. Some of her brothers would come visit, and nobody was putting $1 in her pocket. So whether she had 12 miles to feed or she had 25 miles to feed, my granny figured it out. If she had to babysit more kids for the neighborhood, she was also the neighborhood seamstress, so she had to make more clothes, stitch more hems. She just did it. She just did it, and she never cried about it, not in front of her kids. And that's where it gets real for me. That's where it gets real for me, and that's where I feel obligated to. What do you need me to do? That's where I feel obligated to be strong like my grandmother was. You know, she did all that with 12 kids. My mama did it with 3, and I gotta be able to do it with 1, because what's 1 compared to 12, you know? And you know, all my grandmother had was a high school diploma. All my mother had was an associate's. So I have to be able to do it because I have a master's degree. So that's where it gets real. And that's where it's like, I have to be everything. I have to do it all. So anybody else can chime in? I'm so bad at transitions.
Oh, you're good. I love that you shared that piece of yourself because it's so real. Because we've seen our mothers and their mothers like pick up that backpack and carry it all, and we never really seen them cry or anything because that's what we were expected to do. You know, we don't get to be soft like Adrian was saying. You know, we don't get to be delicate because we don't do that here. Like feelings, what are those? You know, so it's like, oh, you got to put on your smile and you just get it done. And we don't get to say, I'm not okay. We don't get to say, like, I need some help. Cause then our families and stuff will chime in like, girl, you only got one kid. You can't do this, da 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 da. And then you do compare yourself like, dang, my grandma was able to do this and she had all these kids and she didn't have an education like I do and all of that. And you fall into that comparison game and you can get hard on yourself. Like, if they could do it, surely I can do it. But they didn't necessarily tell us like, hey, I had some days where I was crying in the shower or I was crying in my bed after all of y'all went to bed and stuff like that. So I appreciate you for sharing that, Kai. Anyone else want to chime in on their experience? I see Shanae, you raised your hand.
I just kind of want to piggyback off of what you both were saying is that, we grow up seeing the women in our lives kind of, make something out of nothing, right? And I think we're all kind of victim of that. Um, and I think that's a better term, victim of that, because Eve, I have also been guilty of doing that, being the product of teenage parents, being the product of two parents who didn't finish high school, and they felt that pressure that people expected them to fail. So they did, the complete opposite. They made something great of themselves, produced two children who, went on to do good things. And so I had that, ideology playing in my head. But what really freed me, I guess, or helped me to divest from that narrative is realizing that a lot of our elder women and women that we looked up to in our family were deeply sad. They just learned how to mask it. And it's something very freeing about that. My maternal grandmother died many years ago, but after she passed, and it wasn't, it was a sudden thing. We, are going through her stuff and we find all these diaries and all these writings that are just so incredibly sad. But if you knew her, you would not have known that she felt those things because, she put a smile on, she gonna work 2-3 jobs, she gonna sell some plates out the kitchen, she gonna, have the music blasting, have a party, we gonna dance, laugh, kiki, ha ha. But she was deeply sad. So it's like, nobody was doing well. Each generation maybe did a little bit better, but we all carried that expectation that, oh, well, my ancestors did it. I can, do better. I got a better situation, so I shouldn't be struggling. And I feel like we all just need to collectively divest from that. I think for the most part, we are doing better. And I don't know if it's the social media generation or people just being more transparent, more open. But I see a lot of us kind of being like, I'm not doing that. I'm not running myself in the ground. I will openly tell my friends, I've hit my people meter. I love you, but please don't call me today because I can't give you what you need. You're not gonna like me during this phone conversation because I don't care. I'm sorry you're going through things, but I don't have the capacity to care because I'm drowning currently. So I'm gonna unplug. I'm gonna check out. We'll do this again next week. And and if you still here in that, sad place, then I got you. But right now I have to set that boundary because I can't just keep taking people's stuff and stick it in my pocket and I'm gonna pray for that person, pray for this person. And you got 12,000 people on your prayer list and you ain't even pray for yourself and you struggling. So it's just like sometimes you just gotta check out and be like, what? I'm sorry, I'm not Superwoman. I'm sorry to disappoint you on those expectations you have for me, but I'm not tied to those expectations. And then something I wanted to kind of bring up and hopefully someone else can kind of kick it off a little bit more, but this conversation and this thought is also killing us in the health field. This idea that we are stronger and the fact that we are physically stronger, that there's this, whole conversation about Black people's skin, literal skin being thicker, saying that we do not experience pain in the same way that other races experience pain, or that we may be just more outwardly theatrical. So our pain level is not the same as someone else's pain level is leading us to be healed, or us not expressing or knowing like, oh, they expect me to act up, so I'm not going to act up, even though I know I need help, something is wrong, they're ignoring me. I'm not going to act out because I don't want them to call the police, or I don't want to be that ghetto Black woman. And it's killing us. And I'm hoping some of our other health professionals can kind of go a little bit deeper into that, because that's that's a very real thing for us.
I'll touch on it briefly, and then in
Okay,
case our doctor wants to. I will say that from my experience working deeply in like our hospital systems across the Midwest specifically, there are current research studies out that have been published within the last 2 years amongst medical students that asks whether or not you believe, as Shanae was saying, African Americans specifically have a higher level of pain tolerance or pain mitigation. And this is historic. So and I won't call out the specific state, but there are states that have medical technology that is curated based on race. So there's different levels that you might use in this medical device based on the way that someone presents. Why this can be difficult is because not every hospital or not every health center, health provider actually screens for demographics. So how many times do you go to the front desk and they explicitly ask you, what is your race? Or do they make an assumption and they kind of like check you off as Black, white, or whatever you might be presenting? Let's also think about how many categories do they allow you to identify for as race, right? So do I choose my dominant race, or do I choose the one that you are outwardly seeing me as? And then the final place is this Black woman schema. Because we don't often talk about our pain, when we do, it's either dismissed or, as Shanae was saying, it's over exaggerated. So it might be a situation where they expect us not to say anything because of the fact that we can bear this. So when we do, it's like, are you really hurting? Or, is this something that maybe we need to just rub your arm for? And actually, we see this very, 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 very seriously in our sickle cell population, as well as our mothers who are bearing. So it is very much so a real reality. And I'm not going to say that the Black woman mantra is what is funneling this, but I don't think that it helps. So.
That is so deep. And I love how you mentioned the research, because it's tons of research on doctors, medical students, thinking that we are stronger and we can just bear more pain. And like there's also those biases in the medical field that we don't often talk about, where they think we're out for drugs and things of that nature. And it's like, no, we're dying. Like we have higher mortality rates in childbearing and heart attacks and stroke and all of that. And it's because our doctors aren't listening to us. And then also, we don't always ask for help. Let's be honest, So I love that you both mentioned that. And I don't know if Chrissy, you want to touch on your experiences working in the medical field. Have you had any experiences where this has come up that you would like to share, or anything that you want to add to the conversation about how we are deemed in the medical world? I know she's driving, so she might not be able to chime in.
Well, I'll chime in a little bit for what I know Chrissy's doing in Flint. So Chrissy does go to Michigan State, but she's doing her clinical hours and rotations with doctors here in the Flint area, mostly at Hurley Hospital. Actually, Chrissy has been getting mentored by the doctor. Shoot, sorry, I just dropped my food. The doctor, Mona Tisha, who cracked the water case, essentially the water crisis. Chrissy has been teaming up with her a lot. And that's some of the things she's been doing. Chrissy has actually helped her with this project. I think it's called like the Period Project, where they essentially donate menstrual products to local high schools. So that's one of the biggest things Chrissy has been working on, actually has gotten some recognition for too. So, and I'm pretty sure she's just watching everything that Dr. Mona does as regards to following up with the water crisis, because basically to the media, it's 5 years later, but for us who have been here, it's 8 years later. So following up with the research she initiated, some of the stuff that, she has to follow up on, years later to track those kids. Chrissy has been doing it with her side by side.
Awesome. And I also know she's working with Darian, one of our good friends, and working with Black mothers and doing different events to help support Black mothers who need it, like whether it be like medical concerns and helping them advocate for themselves and just teaching them about different experiences like breastfeeding and things of that nature, because it is a unique experience given the history when it comes to breastfeeding. And in our culture, a lot of us had moved away from it because of the cultural implications. I won't go into it too much, but we know that like we were responsible. We don't want to really talk about slavery, but we're gonna go there. But in slavery, we were breastfeeding kids that were not ours, you know. So there's a cultural component and a traumatic experience in that too, where we were having to raise these other women's kids and stuff like that, and we were expected to do that well into after they had their kids and things of that nature. So I think that's important. I know Chrissy said she's going to get on in a minute, but I think are you ready, Chrissy? Awesome. So chime right on in. I know you have a wealth of knowledge in this field too.
So what both of you said is very accurate and very um it's really on point. I really don't have that much to add except um that I really think that when people do work that is based on what they see is wrong in the community or what they see needs attention and more help in a community, that's like the most important work. When community members tell you that they need certain things, um, that work is the work that almost matters most, because you have a community that's actually telling you what they need. And when you have people that are actually interested in asking and putting money towards and putting research towards those things so that those barriers are addressed, really important. So I did work, I do and did work alongside with Dr. Mona Atisha on a couple of different projects, all projects based in Flint, because Flint is Flint is magnified right now because of the water crisis, and that has offered so many amazing opportunities for them to, or for money to be put in that way, so that we can actually talk to these communities and get things addressed. um, there's something else that I was gonna say that I'm like losing right now. Let me get back on and let me pull my thoughts together and say something, because I have to figure out what I'm going to say. Really. Sorry,
It's
y'all.
okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's completely fine. That's that question and what has been shared. It's so much to unpack. So we could never really address it all and go through it all in this limited time. Like, even if we had an infinite amount of time, honestly, there's no way to like just really do it justice and like chime in on it. So I get it. It's okay. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? I see Ricky, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I did want to say something. I'm not in the health field, so I can't speak to the thing that we were just talking about, but to speak to the thing that was mentioned earlier about like trying to be better than our parents and grandparents, and basically this idea of like success and like, you know, climbing the ladder. I really also want us to think about how is success defined? Like what does it mean to be successful, and who gets to write that definition? And in the past, it's been written by white people. And the ideal of success has been around like the white middle class standard of living. So not only have we been exhausting ourselves to try to reach this thing that we think is better, but we also have been like shedding a part of ourselves to reach that as well. So like I remember someone used the term victim to this system. We are victim because there's so much that goes into trying to achieve that success. Like, what does it mean to like get the grades in that college system taught by the white professor? Like, what all do we have to do to show up at the interview, to get the interview? Like, what really goes into it. It isn't just like having the knowledge base, but we also have to perform. We have to change our language. We have to change how we appear and how we dress and all these other things. So it really is, we are falling victim to a system that is dictated by white people and dictated by capitalism and dictated by all these other things that aren't us, that aren't Black. And what does that mean when we go into this system, we do it, and then we teach our kids and teach the people that we come into contact, being I keep saying that, being a higher education practitioner and like interacting with all these different students and these students of color. And they're like, what do I need to do to succeed? And I'm telling them the same thing that was told to me, and later realizing how problematic those things really are. But it's a double-edged sword, because in order to succeed in the system, to graduate, to matriculate, whatever you want to call it, you do have to do some of those things, or it's going to be extremely hard. So where is the line? Where is the balance between survival and doing what we need to do to succeed in these systems, and then, realizing that they're also problematic and rejecting and doing something opposite? Like, how can you survive in that? So I just was thinking about that the whole time, and I'm just like, wow, like victim is the right word. We're victim to this type of system.
I want to hop in on what Ricky was saying too, especially about success and thinking about our success and tied to like the things that we do. And like typically we tie value to ourselves based on that success, right? And so that's something that in recent years, within the last like 3-4 years, that I have really untied for myself. And I think that's super important for Black women to do, to untie our value from like, oh yeah, these degrees, or I do this, or I have these accomplishments, right? But like, nah, I'm valuable just being me. I'm valuable because I'm Ashley. I don't got to do nothing. I don't got to say nothing. I'm valuable just being here, right? And so that's really like something that I had to disconnect. Like, yeah, I got them accolades, and I am valuable just being me. So that's like super important and something like to disconnect from. And then also relatedly of thinking about like that success and having to keep driving and keep striving. And I just look back on some of the things I did to get to where I am. And I'm like, I just think like it was crazy. So like I graduated from undergrad and 2 weeks later I was starting grad school. Like, but I had to keep chugging, and it goes back to that whole idea, like you got to keep pushing. And like at the time, I didn't realize it, but like I was depressed. And then during my first semester in graduate school, my grandmother passed away. I was mildly depressed before that happened, and then my grandmother passed away. Oh, I was fully depressed, like dealing with grief and all that. And so my grandmother died, went home. We had the funeral. A week later, I'm back at grad school. Like no, like that, no, I shouldn't have been there. But thinking about it, like, okay, cool, I got to keep going to school. This is the way I'm paying my bills for my assistantship with, being in grad school. So I had to keep, so it's like also that delicate balance. Like, yeah, I had to go back because like school was my job and how I was making money. But then also at the same time, like I wasn't okay mentally. So it's like it has to be some better balance of having always to like keep forward, right? And like, yeah, it's certain things that we need, we need a roof over our head, we need food, blah, blah, blah. But then also too, at the same time, like that shouldn't be at the expense of having to keep always going and having to keep chugging and chugging, even when you shouldn't be going. Like I shouldn't have been going like back to school. I shouldn't have been in class. I shouldn't have been teaching when like my grandmother just died. And like my grandmother and my mother, like those are my two parents. Like I just lost a parent. So yeah, it has to be a better balance than that.
I totally agree with what Ashley said. And I actually want to answer the question because I really did not hear it because I was in a really loud background. So hopefully you guys allow me to say the answer to that question. So what I have noticed as a medical student, and before being a medical student and being an MA, and then on the research portion of medicine, is that Black women can come in, have a symptom that is, or have a condition that we know is very painful. And for some reason, there really is, depending on who their physician is, or depending on who is treating them and what biases they have, there is not a immediate need for people to say, this patient needs pain medication right now because they're in a lot of pain. And I think that's like one of the saddest things that I experience and see, because pain is subjective, and anything that is subjective um really relies, like it really causes, if someone says that they're in pain, it's like, okay, you're looking as a physician, you're looking as a medical student, and you're saying, okay, you're in pain, how bad is this pain? And then you are like imposing what you feel that person is feeling. And I think that when Black women come into the emergency department or whatever hospital system, depending on where they're being treated, their pain is not taken as a joke, but it's almost as if, oh, they can experience that for 20 minutes and then we can get the pain medication. But let me make sure that I get other things done first. And I know that that is because people look at Black women and expect them to take a lot of different pain differently. And B, Black women, we're used to having to endure pain, I think, physical pain, where we say like, oh, it doesn't hurt that bad. So I know for me, I'll say like, oh, something is a 5 out of 10. But to me, a 10 might be, I saw someone get shot and that looked like a 10. Or like a 10 is something that I really cannot imagine. So when I say 5, that means it's half that pain, which is probably the equivalent of my white counterpart's 8. And because of like things like the pain scale and just a lot of perceptions of what bad pain is or what someone is doing when they're in pain, they don't get the treatment, in my opinion, that they should get by all physicians. Now, this is not every physician. Some hospitals take you in and you get exactly what you need, but some people don't. Some people look at Black people, Black women, and even Black men and know that something is, like, they know if you have pancreatitis, it is very painful. You need really intense medications. And I've seen multiple times people not get their pain medication. I've seen people leave AMA because they did not get their pain medication, or they were given a lesser amount of pain medication that was not adequate to cover their pain. And seeing that is very sad, because it's so systematic, and it just shows that like Black women, Black people are expected to endure so much more pain than the average person, that it's unfair. It's unfair, it's unjust. And the only reason why I think that it is changing in a lot of different hospitals, and I can say like Hurley for sure, I really believe that things are changing in that specific hospital. That's the only one I can really speak to, is because there's other people seated at the table that look like me and that look like us, and that say like, no, you know the science behind this, and are telling residents, are telling students, are telling nurses, you know the science between this. This means their organ is inflamed. That's the most painful thing. Get them their pain meds and get it now. But I'm afraid that before that, and even in some other places, people aren't doing that for women. And just like, honestly, to really put a reason behind it, I really think that it is solely based on what people think Black women should be able to take. And for whatever reason, they think we are superhuman and we don't experience pain the same way, but we do, and probably worse. And that's probably why we see a lot of women experience things that lead to really bad outcomes when they are in pain, because they've waited so long. They waited so long to give us the treatment and the attention that we need, and it's not okay. And then the other part to that question was just like the Black experience in the medical field on this, like just in general. I saw something the other day, and I'm going to share this because I think it's appropriate, but even in like OB-GYN, I think that's a very gentle and a very like intimate experience. It should always be a very intimate experience, no matter how many children you've had, no matter what. Like that should be a very intimate, or not intimate, but that should be a very sensitive exam. And I've seen it without the sensitivity taken, the measures of sensitivity taken on it. And most of the people that those measures are not taken on are Black women. And I always wonder if that's due to how much like Black women are sexualized and how much people just look and just assume, oh, okay, you should be good. You should be comfortable with this. You probably do this. And it's like, it's unacceptable. There really are no words except it is unacceptable. And things like that need to change. And the only way that they're really going to change is if people are bold and say like that's not appropriate.
I don't want to keep us here too long, but I got to echo something that Dr. Jackson just said, specifically around like taking lived experience as evidence. So a lot of times when we move up the educational ladder, we lean so heavily on research. And we forget that that research was actually taken from a real population, a population that still exists and that is still having problems that are still very turbulent. So when we remove the community from the experience or from that implementation or even from the idea generation, it no longer is considered equitable and is also not sustainable because you've essentially just created a solution to a problem you really don't know about. So when we also think about pain, so many times we only think about that physical pain, but there's like emotional and social pain that we endure specifically as Black individuals. Think about how many times you've gone into the hospital center, and let's not even make it our care providers. Just think about how many times you've gone into an establishment and you probably weren't greeted. No one said, hey, good morning, I'll be with you in 1 second. Someone came in right behind you and you're still standing there and they were greeted. No, it doesn't break your day, but it stings a little bit, or at least to me, you know, so now my experience is a little tainted or tarnished. And then it continues, right? So then I have to continue to defend myself or advocate for myself. And maybe I don't even really know what that means. So that's why those intermediaries or those individuals who can be advocates on behalf of our patients are very important. But then let's talk about it organizationally. So we all have sick days, right? And I'm a little biased because my organization is rooted in racial equity because we believe you can't achieve health equity without racial equity. So we have some policies that are not pretty common. However, we basically, the staff, we went to our CEO and we said, we have vacation days and we have sick days, but like you are a Black woman CEO. Let's really think about what do sick days mean for us? Like if I'm cramping, it's not a sick day. I have to literally be like in a ball in order to feel like, all right, I'm gonna take the sick day. So instead, we made our mental health days, we made our sick days mental health days because a Black woman, we will value a mental health day because it's preventative. So I might know last week that I need a mental health day next week because it's a heavy day. So I can use my sick time for that. So just thinking about like, how do we view certain things and then how does that become collateral or compound in how we endure pain? So I just wanted to lift up what Dr. Jackson just said because it is very often that you can forget those domino effects that also increase the actual physical pain.
I love that you mentioned that, Sierra, because we literally, like, we can experience that mental and emotional strain and carry it in our body. Like sometimes, like those feelings show up as pain in our body because like the body keeps score, you know, and we have that generational trauma, like societal trauma, like the trauma from various experiences. So we can hold that in our bodies and that can present itself as pain in our back and pain in different areas, and it takes a toll on your body having all of that like mental health strain and things of that nature. So I appreciate you for bringing that up. And before we move on, anyone else want to share any last minute thoughts on that question?
Can I hop in about this trauma?
Mhm.
So Joy DeGraw, Dr. Joy DeGraw, she wrote a book and it's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And speaking about this trauma that we're talking about, and that trauma like changes our DNA, literally, right? And like it changes our DNA. Also, it's passed down. So like we're carrying the trauma. Then they said we weren't gonna go there about slavery, but we carrying the trauma from slavery, right? Like we're carrying that trauma of our ancestors, and that's still in us. And so even thinking about, you know, that trauma and how that has changed us, but then also I think about it in this way of like, I wanted to stop with me, right? So whether or not I have children or whatever, but that trauma will stop with me, and I want to prevent that, you know, from keep carrying it down for previous generations. And I think that, or for next generations coming up. And so I think that's kind of all what we're talking about and hearing everything that everyone does. We're doing it in our own little niche of like stopping that trauma, right? So if that looks like of making poetry like Ricky, or if that looks like Dr. Jackson, or if that looks like Sierra, like whatever that looks like, we're all working towards that. So I think that's something Admiral, and that like all of y'all are really like inspiring me and getting to my heart. Kai, I feel your heart through the screen, like all of you. And so that's just really empowering for me right now of like thinking about that trauma and how it's ingrained in us, but we're all doing our work to not carry that forward for future generations.
Awesome. Dominique or Adrian, since we're talking about mental health, can either of you speak to any like thing that was talked about as far as like Black women and mental health and what you see in the field? You're on mute.
While everybody was talking, I was kind of thinking of the ACEs quiz, how that all our, that all the things that we experience, whether, it's a trauma or just the hardships of growing up as a child. So the adverse childhood experience quiz questionnaire is, and how it affects us, like our health going forward. And I could see as, growing up as a female, a Black female, or growing up just in seeing the, I guess what say, like myself, my mom was a single mom. So having all those experiences too will affect us, going forward as health wise, and kind of just combating all those things as we get older, like now, I don't know if it's just been like the pandemic or just recent years of just figuring out myself. It's like all these things, and now it's like, okay, I need to eat better, I need to do this, I need to do all these things because of how my past was, my childhood was, and just relating it back to those ACEs quiz. So I just that's like when we started talking about it's so many thoughts going around in my head, of course. So like everything, like I could touch on everything at some point. So when we started talking about the health, that's the first thing that popped into my head. So.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Dominique was saying. In my clinical aspects of my work, a lot of times I find that I'm encouraging people to give themselves permission to grieve a lot of the different things that have happened in their life, because we all have a trauma history, right? And we have a grief log, so to speak, right? And there's lots of things you can grieve. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most grand things. It could be smaller things that led to more complex things later in life, but you have a right to grieve it all. Just because your pain was different than someone else's doesn't mean that the situation that occurred to you didn't still affect you. And I think a lot of times we feel the need to compare. Oh, my sister went through that, or my mom and auntie went through something totally different. Well, if it affected you, it affected you, and you have the right to grieve that. You have the right to mourn it and give yourself time to grieve it, allow yourself to go through the stages, and understand that just because they say that it's stages doesn't mean that it goes like this. It can be more cyclic. It goes in a circle. Something might happen and you feel triggered. Oh, dang, I thought I forgave you and I changed my mind. Well, guess what? In my own personal life, I tell people, listen, I choose every morning to forgive people, and if you called me today and I really didn't forgive you, I'm sorry. Like, if it came back to me for some of the traumas that I've experienced, maybe today wasn't your day. Maybe check in next week. If I feel some type of way about it, I have a right to put those boundaries in place. Although I do have some of my upbringing, which I do have some religious upbringing that tells me to forgive, and that's what it is to be a Christian woman, all that. They didn't really give me any prescription on how to do that. I looked through all the texts. I was looking for a specific formula. I talked to many people. No one gave me a specific formula. So that's what I found worked for me. And when I can find ways to share that with people without giving too much disclosure, I often tell them, give yourself permission to grieve. You have a right to grieve, and be honest with yourself. A lot of times, a lot of things you learned from your environment. There are some biological components for sure, and everyone was kind of talking about those pieces, but there's also learned behavior. So I tell people straight up, it ran into the family until it ran into you. Like, you can break that cycle. It ran into your family until it ran into you. You have, now that you know that this is problematic, what are we going to do collectively to address it? I don't tell people it's all on them. Once you took me on as a therapist or a life coach or different things that I'm doing, right? Once you told me about it, it's a we thing. I'm going to do the best I can to help you get where you're trying to go. And if if me and you is not enough, we're gonna add more people to your support system. What does your support system look like? That's kind of, I feel the vibes and the frequencies and all in here. This is like a support system that this panel is, right? So this is like your tribe. This is your support system. If one person isn't able to answer something or provide information or support, you have a plethora of people in here that, you know, you can lean on, like, you know, I don't think I know about this. Let me talk to her. Now I have that support. I have a link to go look into something. She gave me a buzz term because that's not my area. But when she gave me the buzz term, now I know what to look into. Now I can familiarize myself. So it's about not only understanding that you have the trauma and the history, but understanding that you do have the power to change the way that, like, reframe the way that you've been looking at it. I don't always say we should be looking for resiliency in all our traumas. I'm not saying that, but there is resiliency within us. We've been taught, you know, to be resilient, find the positivity that's within the resilience, reframe some things so that you can cope and you can push forward. Because unfortunately, a lot of it just weighs on us. Somebody was talking about that baggage, that bag and that package, right? It's just constantly like carrying this FedEx box full of something that you don't even know what's in it, but you just carrying it every day anyway, just weighing you down. You're like, what is in here? What is in here? What is in here? You don't know. You carrying it from generationally from your great grands. You don't know what you carrying in this box. You know, it's grown its own another set of generational things with that. You know, so I'm kind of becoming a little bit long-winded because I'm so excited to be on here, but it's about training your brain to say it ran in the family until it ran into me. Whether it's the foods that you eat, right? Whether it's your lack of boundaries to tell people, you know what, someone was talking about, I don't feel like we're gonna have conversations and we're getting off the phone because I'm not gonna be pleasant. Own it. Hey, I do it all the time. I'll tell you right on the phone, hey, I need a break. And the people who know me just know I'm gonna need a good 15 minutes because emotionally, I just don't have the emotional complexity to offer you what I would normally offer you if you just gave me a 15 minutes to come back and check in. So for sure, for me, like, I take 15 minutes and I encourage everyone. I even schedule 15 minutes in my actual day. It goes in my planner. And I tell people I have an important appointment. Talking or chilling or deep breathing, meditation, yoga, that is an important appointment. It's no different than if I was going to the doctor or if my supervisor said they wanted to come talk to me and it was important. My 15 minutes is important. And I got it in my schedule 2 times a day. And I recommend if anybody else need a little me time, you add that into your schedule. You are important. You got to make yourself a priority like you would make a priority for everybody else.
I love it. I need some me time. What's that song? I need some me time, not some her, not some he. I need some me time. So I appreciate you for saying that. You and Dominique shared a lot, and I wanted to touch on it really quickly. I love how, Dominique, you brought up the ACEs test, which is adverse childhood experiences. A lot of Black women in particular, we have really high scores on that. And that's a test you don't want to get a high score on. And I, like we already said, we carry those things in our bodies. Adrian, I love how you mentioned that grieving and healing and forgiveness is a process, an ongoing process. Like sometimes we have to do the learning and unlearning, and some days we think we've forgiven that person, and then it comes back up again. You're triggered or whatever, and like you have to do the reworking of like, okay, I need a break from you. I can't talk to you. I don't have the capacity to do this right now, whatever that means to you. So I love how both of you shared those experiences. Anyone else want to chime in before we get to one more question and then we'll wrap up? Yeah. All right. So next, I just want to talk a little bit about um, what were, let's say, have you ever felt like you had to police yourself in a social setting, professional setting, or any other setting when it comes to your appearance, your hair, your communication style, and things of that nature? I know we've touched on it a little bit in Winter. I wanted you to talk about like the Crown Act and your experiences. So we'll start with Winter first, and then anyone else who wants to chime in, we'll go from there, and then we'll wrap up. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So before I begin, as Danette mentioned, the Crown Act, I don't know if you ladies or you all that are watching at home have heard about it, but I found out about this earlier this year, and I thought it was a dope act. But essentially, the Crown Act was created in 2019. It was created by Dove and some other beautiful Black women. And basically, this act is an attempt to dismantle discrimination within the Black community, specifically speaking Black women, in regards to how we choose to wear our hair in the workplace as well as in the school place. Would you believe it? School place too. So with that being said, I would definitely highly encourage you to look up it's called the crownact.com. Let me make sure I'm right, because last time I said .org and it didn't show up, .com. Just to do more research about it. They also have a petition that is going around to make sure this act is enforced from state to state within the United States of America. So, do your research, go in there, look on it, share the word, amen. But in regards to this question, being an educator, oh yes, I've definitely had so many moments where I felt like I was being policed. Actually, within this academic year, I had a couple of moments where I felt like my speech and how I presented myself as a Black woman that's an educator was being policed. And it pissed me off 100%, because as I stated earlier, I had to learn, and I'm still learning about who winter is and all that encompassed me, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when I choose to be honest and transparent about it, I've learned that when you choose to be honest and open about who you are, again, as I said earlier, that intimidates people, because they feel like, well, if she can do it, then I should be able to do it, but I don't want to do it because I don't want to deal with whatever, right? And so it makes them feel some type of way when you are walking in your authentic self. And so I had to realize that it's not a matter of me, it's a matter of them. And I'm still gonna shine. I'm not gonna dim my light for you. If anything, I'm gonna turn it up even more to let you know you don't have no victory over here in Jesus' name. I'm still gonna be what I was called to be, amen. So, and the reason why I realized that's important is because of where I teach. So as I stated before, I teach in a language immersion school where it's diverse in terms of language, culture, socioeconomic background, all of that jazz. And at the moment, I am the only Black educator there. Our principal she's a Black woman, but in terms of educators, I'm the only Black educator there. And so it didn't really ding for me until I had a moment my first year that I taught at this school. I've been at this school for about 3-4 years now, when I wore my hair naturally. So my hair has been through a journey. I've cut off my hair, I've dyed my hair, I've permed my hair, I've put in the mohawk. It's been a whole journey, but that's just a part of who I am. And so at that time, what did I have? I was growing my hair back out, and I had a tiny little Afro puff, but I did like a little mohawk or something of that nature. And at the time, like I said, I was the only Black educator, and it was so cool to see one of the Black girls at my school. She came down the stairs, and I was in front of my classroom to greet my students. And she came down the stairs, and before she entered into her classroom, she greeted me and said, "Hey, Miss Pitts." And I was like, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" And she was like, "Oh, I love your hair." And to see her face light up because she see this Black woman wearing their hair, and I wear my lipstick, I wear my earrings, and I wear my clothes to represent my beauty, my natural beauty, and where I come from, that I'm proud of where I come from, right? And so it was so cool because during that moment, Carissa, we're gonna have to mute you out. During that moment, it was when one of my other good friends and coworkers, she is Latina, she was like, "Representation matters." And I just sat there and I was like, "Ooh, that's deep." You hear it, right? But to experience it right in that moment, oh, it was so deep. It almost brought me to tears. But I had to teach 5 minutes later. So I was like, "Ooh, suck it up." Get ready and go teach. But because of moments like that, I've learned that, again, I am enough and I am going to show up the way God created me to show up. And if that makes you feel some type of way, oh, well, you're going to feel some type of way because I don't care. Because if how I'm showing up, if it's not toxic, if it isn't belittling you, then I don't understand what the problem is. And that sounds like a you problem, not an us problem. It's a you problem. You need to fix that, amen. So I learned that it's okay. And I also learned that in doing so, you spark curiosity from those around you. And so it has led to me being my authentic self. It has led to some amazing conversations at my school with my coworkers that are now starting to transition to good friends. And it has led to just like amazing discoveries and just really deep conversations to the point where if I'm not in spaces, they can advocate and they can speak life and positivity about, the Black community, because they've had conversations with me and other Black people. And so whenever they're faced with unfortunate people that have these interesting ideologies or perspectives or perceptions of Black people, they can shut it down immediately. And so I would just encourage us to continue to be in your authentic self. Again, I'm being a little long-winded, I apologize, but I just love this topic. I love talking about being our authentic self because we are beautiful. We are so beautiful. There are so many people that try to duplicate who we authentically are. It's mind-boggling, but that just shows you the power we have to be in our authentic self. From the crown of our head to the soles of our feet, we are beautiful. And I think that speaks volumes. And so I just wanted to share that.
Yes, show up as yourself. I love it. All right. Anyone else want to chime in?
I'll say something. I think so. For a while, I was the only Black and female. Well, not and female. We're only Black on my team. It was all females. We're therapists, so how many male is it? So, but it was only black person on my team. So, I didn't necessarily. I wouldn't say. Of course, people can make, when my hair changed, made comments and different things like that. But I felt probably more policed by my mom, to be honest. She's like, once you're gonna do something to your hair today, no, I'm going just like this. Like the FaceTime, and she's like, you're not gonna comb your hair? Like my hair is combed. I'm going like this. But outside of that, I think I've probably policed myself more in the way I would say like do therapy, like the models, and just from where we were taught in school and how to speak to people. I had a conversation with my supervisor before as far as like how often we get different referrals and if they're African American or white, and like when you're saying, oh, you're going to meet with this person, it's like, as a Black person, I know that might sound like a white name, so I'm not coming. And she's like, no, people don't come anyways, because I'm like, I know from experience, if you tell me I'm going to meet with this person, I may not show up. So, but I found myself more so just being myself, like, not really, like I have, the training and things like that, but going into a session with a Black person, it's different. It's different all the time. My significant other just walk past and be like, I don't think you're supposed to have said that to them. As far as like me challenging someone's perspective or something, it's like, I can't, what you want me to be nice about it? Like, no, where you always, he would tell me like stuff like that, like I can't be nice to people. But I thought about changing even my like social media handles to like being unorthodox in the sense like this is not like, I'm not trying to therapy how I was trained to do it from a white perspective. That's not what we need. So I feel like I police myself more so I won't get fired. So, but that's really it. Like But I'm trying to break myself out of that, because when at the end of the day, I have people who be like, I needed that. You know, I'm glad that you told me that. So.
I love that you mentioned that, because even in my work as a therapist too, like especially in the beginning and starting out as a new therapist, I thought I had to be all like this and, how do you feel about that? And if like some slang or something like that would come out, I would like get in my head like, I can't believe I said that, or I shouldn't have said that. But I realized like me just being me and letting those little isms slip out, like it brought joy into the session. It helped my clients open up and so much more. So now I might be like, what? I might do something like that, get wide-eyed, like I throw my isms in there sometimes, and like they enjoy it. It like brings some fun into my sessions, and it helps them see me as me, whether they're Black, white, and you name it. Like I've noticed, like when I just show up as myself and I take that, oh, I got to be a certain way out of there, and I just am me, whether I'm rocking my like braids or my fro, like you gonna get what you gonna get. I'm gonna be Black today and every day. So I appreciate you for saying that, because it's hard, because you're expected, whether it's from family expectations, professional expectations, and things of that nature. You're expected to present a certain image, and I'm like, I'm not being in nobody's box anymore. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna wear some hats. I'm gonna wear some scarves, big earrings, you name it. I'm gonna have my Black excellence t-shirts on, my Black woman is shirts, and everything in between. Like I am me, and you're not gonna like force me to dim my light in that area. Like, no, I'm a Black woman. I can't hide it, like, period. So why should I police myself in these different areas? Like, I'm me. I want to be me in all areas. Of course, you got to be professional in certain things, and you got to like be mindful and everything. But I don't want to code switch anymore. Like, this is how I talk. This is how I dress. This is me.
I want to chime in. Oh, go ahead, Adrian. Okay, I'll chime in really, really quickly. Most of what I was going to say has been shared, so I'm just like floating on cloud nine right now. It's interesting because I'm a first generation student. I've already shared, like my mother was a single mother. So where I'm trying to go, I never saw it, right? So I didn't know what the corporate rules were. So at my first job after college, I was very fortunate to work in a very nice hospital financially. So I just kind of showed up and I was on a high. So they got all of me without me recognizing that that was so abnormal. And I was met with resistance. And that resistance is what, I don't like to use this word, but that's what triggered me of, okay, wait, how do I grow in an organization that doesn't accept me? Like, so if I know I want to become a leader, if I know that I need somebody to nourish me, if I'm giving you me and you're saying no, like, so does this work? And then I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't it. And it took people who loved me and who cared about me, and Shanae is one of them, to be like, no, Sierra, like that is a skill. Like what you're doing right now, like keep it going and just perfect it, right? So I introduced myself as a community solutionist because that's how my team identifies me. Like, and I manage a team of community members. But at the systems level, I sit at a lot of C-suite tables, and they'll always call me a disruptive innovator. Okay, cool, I'll take it. I love the title, but you just see that translation, right? So I've had to lean into what does it mean to be a disruptive innovator? So much so that I've taken trainings about proper agitation, and I've taken trainings to make sure that I can show up myself, because leaving my personality at the door doesn't help you or me. Because what I need to make sure is I show up full so that I can make sure I create space for the same community members I just told you needed to be at the table. So if I show up with a certain level of academia and prestige that you still can't respect, when I bring my community member who's going to come in here, who's candid, who's going to give you their authentic perspective, you're going to disrespect them, and that's not what I'm going to allow. So let me use myself as that little battleground, that middle space, and create my passion as pipeline. I no longer want to be the anomaly. When I say period in a meeting, because I agree, I want another Black person to show up and understand it. There we go. You know what I'm saying? When someone is getting high and they're energetic and I match that energy to show that I'm agreeing, that's no longer aggression. That is a high field energetic space, right? When I say we need to have this unflinching conversation because you think that I am the Black representative in this space and I'm not, then let's do that, right? So like there's certain things that I've had to become comfortable with, but I didn't realize that I was. It was just, I know that I want to go somewhere and I don't have a rubric. I don't have a guide sheet. So I just lift up everybody in this space for like, we going for it. And I just got to shout out Shanae because she stays in my ear about, see her stay down and stay forward. So I lean into both of those titles and we see what happens.
Okay, I just wanted to jump in real quick. So if y'all can't tell, Sierra's my little cousin. She inspired me. She a couple years younger, but she inspires me because I went into the professional world the complete opposite as Sierra. I went in because I had the benefit of seeing people navigate the corporate space of like very prim and proper, hair pressed and slicked, low buns, studs. You would never wear hoops, nails, absolutely not. You know, I had my customer service white voice on. How can I help you? How can I assist you? Yes. And that got exhausting. And I learned very quickly, even with me navigating in a way that is palatable for you, you still will find a way to make me the angry Black woman. Once that happened to me twice, just for questioning something, and I mean, being very calm, even though they were super disrespectful, and the Joy Road in me rose up and wanted to punch some people, but I was just like, you know, very calm in what I was saying. And I was told I was intimidating. I was being aggressive. Mind you, I was not yelling, but all of these things. And I knew I was about to be out that place. I decided I am no longer going to do this. I'm not going to code switch. I'm not going to drive myself insane trying to be palatable for you. And it's just making me neurotic and anxious. And so, you know, further down the line, I wear my hair natural, you know, just today was a bad day. So we got our help meet on today, but I wear my hair natural. My hair is bright red and it will be bright red. I get my acrylic long nails and what, yes, I'm a typing clickety clack clack. Y'all gonna hear these clacks, but I know my stuff. I'm educated. I can speak as a subject matter expert on this. And that's what qualifies me to be in the community because I understand how to translate the information that is very jargon above people's heads. And we know that people do that sometimes as a power trip to talk down to people in our community by using all these very jargon, you know, whatever they call them, $3 words to confuse people. Well, yes, I'm listening to that and watch me translate this in a way that they absolutely understand what it is you're trying to say. And just two quick things that I have been living by. I just wanted to throw these out here. One of my favorite YouTubers has coined this term, have the confidence of a mediocre white man. And when I tell y'all, that has liberated me because a lot of times Black women, we police ourselves. We will be qualified for things, but talk ourselves out of those opportunities because we feel like, well, I don't have enough experience, or I don't this, or I don't think they're gonna want me. No, go in there like you own it, like, you know, be yourself, show up fully authentic as you, and it has payoffs. In the wrong company, yes, they may not like it, but guess what? You just learned that quicker. So now you're wasting less of your time and you're moving forward. Second, I don't know where I saw this. I don't know if it was Twitter, Facebook, I don't know. But there was a meme that said, "Sis, stop tiptoeing, let them hear your steps." And that's it for this year and going forward. However you show up, whether that is quiet and you're just naturally meek and mild, be that. If you are, you know, what they would call ghetto, whatever, we not engaging in respectability politics because at least in the public health world, I can't speak, you know, for everyone else, but in the public health world, I had to realize I am doing this work for the people who we think are undeserving, for the people who are not what we would call Black excellence, the people who are okay, renting a little house in the hood, just being happy. They don't want nothing more. And guess what? That's okay. We've allowed, you know, capitalism to trick us into thinking that we got to have all this stuff to be valuable, as I think Ashley said earlier. But Black people are not a monolith. We've heard that, but let's actually live that. Let's allow people to be them. Let's all show up in our respective spaces as ourselves because we get more done and more accomplished when we are ourselves. And guess what? Let's disrupt that generation that's above us because honestly, the most pushback I have gotten is from Black women who are older in the same spaces telling me, oh, I don't think you shouldn't dye your hair red. That's too much. They can't handle that. Girl, you need a little bit less earrings. Girl, get you some smaller glasses. I have actually heard this, get smaller glasses. What does that have to do with anything? But literally they will try to put you in that box. And I'm sorry, sis, you lived in bondage for 45 years at this company. Guess what? I'm not. I'm going to be me. And I'm going to get work done because this is how we get change. As Sierra said, be a disruptive innovator. Whatever it is, shake it up. Shake that table. Flip the table. Jesus flipped the table too. So yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Oh man, you gave so many jewels. I almost couldn't remember what I what I had to say, but I was kind of reflecting on my experience, and I had both like a corporate experience and I had entrepreneurial experience that I want to kind of just slightly touch on. It made me reflect back to the miseducation of the Negro, right? And I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with that particular text, but it resonated so much that it hurt. If y'all could connect with what I'm saying, when he talked about how you go to an institution, right? I went to a predominantly white institution, so I pretty much like the book, went to predominantly, white institution, and I was forced to like assimilate, right? So they conditioned me to talk a certain way, to understand my community a certain kind of way, to create and cultivate and run programs a certain kind of way in the community, right? Because we have a mindset. I went to the school to get the training so that I could be quote unquote qualified, like kind of like I think I'm gonna say your name wrong. Shanae was saying, was saying like, we don't feel qualified to just run it by ourselves. So we want to put that paperwork, those letters behind our name, right? We want to feel more solidified. So, okay, I'm going to school so I can run these programs. But truth be told, someone from a different community would just went straight out of high school and ran the program. I felt the need to go to college to go get trained to be able to run the program. So, okay, I'm in these institutions. You're telling me how I need to strategically structure it, et cetera, and so forth. I have the construct of what the community was like back then, but I haven't done the needs assessment for what the community is like right now. So I'm trying to run a program and I come back in and like, hold up. You don't sound like one of us. You're not moving like one of us. You're not reflecting our current values. And I get the Heisman too, So now I feel some type of way like, wait a minute. I've made this investment into saying how committed I am to my community. I went away to school. Do you know how much I had to pay, whether I was working these jobs or if I got a loan or I did whatever I had to do so that I could come back to the community? And people don't want to go back to the hood. Y'all gonna give me the Heisman? And you connect and you resonate with that. And I was like, I remember reading the book and saying, oh my gosh, like, this is me. I came back home to run these programs and people are looking at me, wow. Then they try to tell you too young, you're almost too radical. And in my spaces where I was moving around, I was actually considered more conservative. I was like, yeah, I'm not the radical one. I could bring some people in here really shake and move some stuff. If you want me to bring somebody radical, but they do everything they can to kind of stifle your voice. And I remember when I was going in for interviews, kind of like I have my hair right now, I kind of slicked it back. Or I would sit there and I'm like, okay, I got to get this Dominican blowout. So this will last me 3 weeks because I don't want to have to straighten it myself. I don't think, my little bends and turns is going to hold the same way theirs does. So I'm going to have to give me a couple wigs to hold me off. So you're trying to find the perfect wig that match how your hair looks when it's pressed. Because you're like, okay, if it don't work out and I mess around, going to rain or something happen, I need to look the same because I don't want them to treat me different when I come in here with this whole different wig on, and the stress that puts on you because you're trying to have a certain image, right? I always walked in with my blazer. I was like, oh no, I'm solidified. Like, I'm going with my blazer. I see other people walk around with t-shirts. I remember one day just being toe up. I seen a lady come in there with distressed jeans. I was like, she got on distressed jeans in this environment? Like, how did she get away with that? Meanwhile, I feel required to have on pearls. I feel required to have on the blazer. And she came in here with some distressed jeans. I was like, what is going on? And I started to kind of realize, like you guys were saying, you have elders in your family or, in your community. And when I was like, okay, well, you know what? I decided I want to wear locks now. And I was going through the process where I was trying to wear my hair more natural. And I had been doing it on and off for like 15 years. And every time I got like right there, I'm like, I'm about to go to my loctician like next week. I'm excited. I would let them get in my ear. You know, if you decide to do a different job or you want to get them other contracts, you're not going to be able to get that. And you can't do this and you can't do this. And I let them eat at me. And I really let them eat at me and kind of convince me not to do it. And as I kind of moved through the professional world, like, you know, I get the braids and people, you know, make all their little weird, you know, almost exoticizing, you know, eroticizing my hair. And I was like, that's so uncomfortable. And people acting like they want to touch your hair, like your hair would feel like a Brillo pad or something. No, my hair is soft and the coils pop and, you know, mind your business pretty much. Don't put your hands in someone's head. But it was just all these like really different experiences I was having, and knowing that I didn't want to come across aggressive if I said something about them putting my hands in my mind. I'm like, you just don't go around touching people. That's a consent conversation, right? But to not know, like, I know I have to cut into you, but how can I make this translate appropriately in this corporate clapback? Like, how can I say this without it just slightly tinging over into like, she's one of those, like, you know? I was liberated when I kind of just decided to like leave the corporate setting. I gave myself a year and I kind of really dove into my entrepreneurial side where I already had a business, but I kind of ran it full throttle. And it was kind of what helped me be able to publish my book. Representation is so important. When I was able to not be in a corporate setting and I could just wear my hair wrapped, because I do that quite a few times a week, at least 2 to 3 times my hair is actually physically wrapped. My hair is still in natural state, I just got some jam on it. But, you know, just being able to wear my hair natural and not feel like someone's going to say anything and honestly say something I don't care anymore, like to not feel like it's going to affect my upward mobility to, you know, where's the one image in my book? I thought it was really important, like representation. We tell people, you know, oh, it's important that you go get therapy. And in our community, we say it's more accessible, but it's still slightly taboo. The idea of seeing like a clinician of color, right? The idea of seeing a clinician that looks like you. So not just the clinician, but the client is of color. So imagine seeing, I'll give you an image. I'll just show it to you. I don't know if you guys can see it on here. So I gave them a picture of me and then we had a character that I made for my book. But you see how his hair is very natural? I don't know if you can see it. Oh, okay. Thanks. So, you know, you kind of see some heels. Now I wouldn't have a dress on that short in a session, but you know, just to kind of put that out there, like, you know, have a little swag, you know, have my hair scarf wrapped, you know, it's the pandemic's been going on. So his hair growing out, he has more like a lock-like style. His hair, beautiful hair, like most people of color. His hair defies gravity, right? That beautiful melanin in his skin. And just the transparency of it all. Like, I just think it's really important to have like the imagery of them seeing themselves. So when you talk about inclusivity, I thought it was important to make sure, like, if I was going to actually contribute to the literature, which was something I wanted to do for years, but once again, imposter syndrome. We all feel like we're not the right person. Oh no, I can't be the one to write a book. Ooh, I need at least another 10 years on me. Like, maybe I need to have somebody else partner with me to do this. Oh, we find a million reasons why, you know, we shouldn't be doing something. And it was a whole experience for me to kind of move from the corporate aspects to entrepreneur and then slightly transitioning back into some corporate spaces. I'm a little bit more unapologetic about things because I was always told to, as someone kind of said earlier, to be a little bit more prim and proper. You know, you could have that more corporate look, that traditional, that's what they're looking for. And I don't really care about that portion anymore. As long as my skills match what you're looking for, I don't really care about the other pieces. And it's just been a new kind of experience for me within the last, I would say, year or two. And I'm really excited about it, but it was for sure a transition because it completely countered what my entrance into that was like. So yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to say the importance of code switching in therapy. I found that for a lot of clients that I've worked with, my ability to kind of jump into that, we can have our therapeutic language that we're using, and then they might give me a narrative or a story. I'm like, you know, and I kind of code switch and I can decipher some of the things that they're saying because I've been in certain spaces in my lifetime. I've been in certain environments. So us having similar language actually was more relatable. So oh, thank you. But it was more relatable to them and they could connect better to me as a clinician. I was the clinician for them, but I was so stuck in my mind about what type of vernacular to use, not understanding that language is important across the board. That's his own language with style within itself. That's our connection. We're part of the same community. Understand that I'm here to support you. So it actually can be of benefit to us. Okay, I'm done talking because I know I was talking too long.
I love it. Thank you all so much. I'm going to just wrap us up because I promised y'all we'll be done by 3:00. So I know there's a lot to share, and I appreciate you all for just being vulnerable, sharing your experiences and your knowledge. I appreciate each and every one of you. And then after we're done, if we could just stay on because it's something that I want to share with you all, and then we'll be done, I promise. Just to wrap us up, I just wanted to go around and have everyone share just what would you like for people to know about Black women, or what is a message that you would want a Black little girl to know, or even your younger self to know. If you could share something with people today, what do you want them to know, or what message do you want to leave with people today? And we can start with, I'm just going to go around to make it quick. And I know, Dominique, you have to get off. So let's start with you, Dominique, and then we'll go from there.
I guess what I would want my younger self to know is it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to be yourself, love yourself to all capacities, and you don't have to be perfect.
Ricky, can you share?
I want to echo everything that Dominique just said. Like, love yourself, and it's okay not to be perfect. But I also want to really encourage. I would tell this to my younger self, but I also want to tell it to younger women of today, to live outside of a timeline. That's probably the biggest thing. Like, do not hold yourself to the standards of society. Do not create a timeline for yourself. Like, embrace whatever journey you're in, learn who you are, take all the time that you need to learn who you are and develop whatever skill set you want to develop. And then when they're ready, they'll be ready. And when you're ready to show them to the world, you'll be ready. Like this poetry thing, I just started like a year ago, and I did not know writing was something I wanted to do. And if you would have asked me in high school, I would have told you writing is not ever going to be in my future. But it was because I was chasing careers that people told me that I should chase because they make money. And now I'm 26 years old, have a degree in something that I don't know how long I'm about to stay in. And now I'm trying to pursue what I really want to do. And, it's a little bit hard doing that because they're like, at a certain age, you're supposed to have this and have these accolades and this home with this family and all of that. That's all bull. I'm not going to say the second half. I usually cuss, but I'm not going to cuss. That's all bull. Live outside of the timeline. Give yourself as much time as you need to be who you are going to be. Love who you are in the process of your journey. And it'll all work out in the end. It'll all work out in the end.
Yes, you don't have to have all the answers and don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay to grow through it, to experience it, and journey through it. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Shanae, can you leave us with some wisdom that you would like to share with everyone?
Kind of echoing what Dominique and Ricky both said. Give yourself grace. It's okay not to know everything. Also, divorce yourself from other people's expectations, family included. Yeah, everybody that resonated, everybody got what I was saying. Just be you. Don't feel like you have to be something that you're not. And it's okay to be a little weird. We all weird. Most of us just hide it. Just lean in. You'll be all right.
She may be frozen, so I'll just go next quickly. I go what everybody said, and I would add, you are a butterfly, and whatever garden you choose to attend, you add beauty to it.
Okay, so I see it kicked her off. So I'll go. um, loving yourself more than you love the love from others. And that's all me. I ain't get that from nowhere. That's all me.
Okay, let me get mine out because it is not as artistic as what I'm hearing. If I had to offer any, I don't know, any advice or what I would tell my own self, it would be to be your own blueprint. Vulnerability is strength, that you don't have to wait to be great. And it's okay to be in the room, even if you're just there to listen. So.
Yeah, I think she popped out, but I think we have maybe 1 or 2 more left to share. Did everybody go?
I didn't really have anything in particular. It's just honor your truths. You know, your truths are yours and no one can take them from you. And your legacy is already started, you know. So whatever you're building and whatever is destined for you to have in the future, it's already building and moving towards that place. You don't have to stress about, you know, getting there. I think I've always been stressed about, oh my gosh, like what am I supposed to be doing in this world? You know, you don't have to stress. You're already getting there. What's intended for you is for you. So.
All right, amen. So with that being said, hopefully she'll pop back on soon, but we are going to close out because I know she was about to close out. And then hopefully she'll pop back in, but we can say bye to our Facebook friends. See ya.